Hey everybody, it's your boy 1foot Wyatt and welcome back to your favorite D-tier channel. With this glitch video, we begin our journey through all 4 of Atomic Heart's DLCs. Today, we'll be taking a peek behind the curtains of the first DLC, Annihilation Instinct. Let's begin. This first glitch occurs at Lebedev's lab later in the game, which upon exiting the helicopter and approaching the lab, for some reason it never fully rendered in, meaning I could just walk right through the floor. Not long after though, it actually did render in, and of course I got stuck in there and had to reload a save. Lame. Next on our agenda is of course a massive out of bounds glitch. However, just before we do that, there's this truck that you can sometimes run inside upon loading in, similar to the lab. And also like the lab, it eventually did render in and trapped me inside. Shocker. Anyways, back to our out of bounds glitch. To the left of this truck is a large variety of buildings. We need to make our way through all of them, and not too long after, we reach the opposite side of this little village and stumble upon a rather large gate. From here, we make another left behind some more cabins and are greeted by the sight of one of the bead tubes and some farm style decor behind it. We need to head behind the bead tube and towards this stable and then up over the fence. Now that we're in this little gap in the walls, we need to stand up against a screen log on the ground as far left as possible. Next, we need to time a dodge jump and then dodge again in the air to glitch us on top of this shed. Now that we made it on top, we can walk across to the stable opposite of us and can climb up on top of this house. From this house, we can jump over to the neighboring house and then make a right down onto a second shed. This is a long process, so just bear with me here. Now you'll notice there's some trees next to the shed, which we want to sandwich ourselves against those and an invisible wall. Here we can jump onto the invisible wall slightly, then we should just be able to jump over the invisible wall and onto these tents. Then after we cross the tents, drop down to the pond below and work our way up to this rock face to officially get into the meat of this out of bounds glitch. You can basically walk around the entire map of the DLC by doing this. To begin exploring, we need to head to our right past this radio tower, and in doing so lets us explore the nearby buildings. Shall we? Eventually, we stumble upon this tunnel in the hillside. This tunnel is how we will be able to get even further out of bounds, and eventually take us to a wrong warp location. Another thing of note in this tunnel is that it actually has a couple of untextured models associated with it. Here inside we can see a hole in the terrain, as well as the untextured arches in the tunnel above. For us to be able to make progress along the map, we need to crouch underneath the tunnel on the left side here and walk underneath this wall. From here, we can make our way down the hillside and continue along our marathon. It's worth the journey, trust me. This time we approach the opposite end of the tunnel, and after scaling the rocks, we're met with quite the view of this river and accompanying bridge. Which, conveniently, we can drop down and cross over both, as everything is solid, surprisingly enough. After crossing the river, we're met with the sight of a lot of one-sided buildings, and eventually And a bus. Hell yeah. Anyways, all the buildings can be walked through. Yeah, it's even a little trippy at first. And of course, they can also be stood on top of as well. When we're all done scoping out the area, it's time to turn around and head up the hillside some more. When we begin to approach the top of the hill, we have two choices, both of which I'll showcase here, of course. First is checking out near the giant statue, going all the way around the left side to find some untextured goodness. And then secondly, back towards the actual level, we can find a hidden dead soldier and that crazy wrong warp I was talking about. We'll get the statue out of the way first, as it's pretty brief. Upon our ascent towards the statue, most of the foliage will begin to turn super low poly and completely lose all of its texturing, making for some wildly bizarre looking scenery. Then finally reaching the statue, we'll find that, just like the base game, it's absolutely ginormous, and sadly, not solid at all. So let's not dilly-dally too long up here and head back down the way we came. We make our way back down the hill and follow the nearby pathway towards the actual level. Eventually, we end up reaching the other side of the Mendeleev Memorial and are greeted by some really janky terrain. What we're actually doing here though is to take a quick peek at the soldier that's sitting out of bounds nearby. Just to the right of the complex, we can see a small tower in the distance. I was able to get close enough to see that there's actually a soldier lying still at the top, complete with an axe and even blood. I don't think you can really see much of him in bounds at all, so this is a pretty neat find. Now from here, we continue along the road to the complex in the back. This is where it begins to get very interesting. The first structure we pass through isn't solid at all. And sadly, we can't reach the rest of the structures because of a giant invisible wall. Trust me, I've tried. That being said, this is where we can trigger a wrong warp, so let's head back up near the edge of the map. Now I don't know if you need to enter photo mode, but we do need to hug the invisible wall next to the building and walk off into the void. Now I did enter photo mode right when the screen went black, and that already caused some crazy effects. But eventually I closed, then re-entered photo mode a second time, and as I did so, the game decided to wrong warp me to the beginning of the DLC, all the way back to the resort, the Lyokya Hotel. I totally butchered that. As far as I'm aware, you're not at all supposed to be able to come back to this place, let alone be able to swim in the water. When you're here, all the railings and pathways are blocked by invisible walls. So this wrong warp is actually the only way to even get access to the water in the hotel. Shockingly, everything is solid still. The water, of course, all the walkways, etc. With that being said, all the above walkways, rooms, and even the island houses on the water can't be climbed onto, as crummy as that is. We do have some low poly fishes we can hang out with though. So, that's cool. And just before we move on, here's me voiding out after the wrong warp. Somehow. I don't even know what I did. Now, before we check out a couple other out-of-bounds glitches, here's a few enemy glitches I encountered throughout my playthrough, starting with this methed out Plyush. God, I hated that. Next, we have a group of enemies briefly appearing where they shouldn't, then mobbing me from behind. And thirdly, I trapped one of the mannequin enemies in one of these lab chambers, only for the little bugger to clip out the door anyways. For our second to last glitch, we're in Nora's core room. All we gotta do is make our way to the top of the platform and come to this corner on the catwalk. If we boost jump into the corner correctly, we actually get stuck between two invisible walls. Now, we just have to keep boost jumping, and we should make our way over the wall eventually, and to the core below. And we can't do much here, sadly. We can stand on the actual core itself, however, it actually causes damage to us very quickly. And if we try to go further down, we end up hitting a death plane. Still kinda cool we can get down here to begin with though. And for our final glitch, we're back at the Mendeleev Memorial and need to head to the left, towards the nearby bead tube. Next, we need to jump over the bush behind the tube and against the rock face. The invisible walls will guide you into a bit of a pocket, in which you can launch yourself into the rock face with the boost jump. Now on the rocks, we need to boost jump towards this tree until we hear P3 get stuck. This should then allow you to get enough height with a second boost jump to clear yet another invisible wall. Once over said wall, we continue along the fence until we approach this small rock here. Walk into the gap between the rock and the fence to get stuck, perform a boost jump, then dodge once more to land onto the cliff. We're now once again out of bounds and can continue on a bit further. Follow the path I take to cross the waterfall. Then in this little crevice, we do yet another boost jump to gain some height. On top of this rock, we do yet another boost jump and are now able to cross the waterfall. We can walk along the cliffside here, but it only leads to a dead end where you have to reload. Not too much going on over here. So back at the waterfall we were just at, if we're careful, we can actually walk along the inside of the mountain, scaling just a bit higher. And this is where we're left high and dry. I wasn't able to progress further out of bounds here. With that, thanks everybody for tuning in, and I'll catch you guys in the second Atomic Heart DLC. Peace!